Welcome to English Learning Academy, ELA. If you are learning English and you enjoy fascinating stories, history, mystery, and ancient wisdom, you are in the right place. It is a story about death, the soul, judgment, and the mysterious world beyond life. Our story is inspired by the ancient Egyptian collection of texts known today as the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So relax, listen carefully, and enjoy this fascinating journey. And while you listen, pay attention to the English words and phrases you hear. You may learn some new vocabulary along the way. Now, let the journey begin. What if death was not the end? More than 3,000 years ago, the people of ancient Egypt believed that death was only the beginning of another journey. When a person died, the family carefully prepared the body and placed it inside a tomb. But the Egyptians did not believe that the person's story ended there. They believed that something invisible continued its journey. The soul had entered a mysterious world, a world of darkness and light, a world filled with gods, hidden doors, guardians, dangers, and unknown paths. And the dead person needed more than courage to survive this journey. They needed knowledge. They needed to know the right words. They needed to remember important names. They needed protection. And, most importantly, they needed to be ready for the final judgment. The ancient Egyptians created many prayers, spells, hymns, and instructions to help the dead on this journey. Today, these writings are known as the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a book for the journey. The name Book of the Dead can sound frightening, but the ancient Egyptians had a different idea. Their ancient name for these writings was closer to the Book of Going Forth by Day. Isn't that interesting? Going forth by day means moving from darkness into light. The Egyptians believed that the dead could continue into another form of existence. Death was not simply an ending. It was a passage. It was a journey. And, like every difficult journey, the traveler needed preparation. This is an important English phrase. The journey begins. The journey begins. You can use this phrase whenever something important is about to start. And, for the ancient Egyptians, the journey began after death, entering the darkness. Imagine that you are standing inside an ancient Egyptian tomb. The world outside has disappeared. There is no sunlight. There is only darkness. The walls around you are covered with mysterious symbols and pictures. You see gods. You see strange creatures. You see boats traveling through the night. You see doors and gates. And you see words written on the walls and on sheets of papyrus. To us, these words may look like ancient writing, but to the Egyptians, they were much more than writing. They believed that words had power. The right words could protect the dead. The right words could help the soul pass through dangerous places. Knowing the names of certain gods and guardians could help the traveler continue the journey. The Book of the Dead was almost like a spiritual guidebook. A guidebook for a journey through the unknown. And the traveler had to be prepared. The world beyond death. The Egyptians imagined the world beyond death as a mysterious realm. There were gates to pass through. There were guardians. There were dangerous creatures. There were powerful gods. And the dead person had to know how to face them. But there was something even more important than knowing the right words. The traveler had to answer a much deeper question. What kind of person had you been? Not, how much money did you have? How powerful were you? How famous were you? How many things did you own? The question was about the person you had become. And this brings us to one of the most famous scenes in ancient Egyptian belief. The weighing of the heart. The heart. The ancient Egyptians believed that the heart was very important. It was not simply an organ inside the body. They believed the heart was connected with a person's thoughts, character, actions, and identity. In a way, they imagined that the heart carried the story of a person's life, every choice, every action, every secret, every good deed, every wrong deed. And one day, the heart would face judgment. Imagine standing inside a great hall. You are surrounded by powerful gods. In front of you is a large balance, a scale. On one side, your heart, and on the other side, a feather. Just a feather. But this was not an ordinary feather. It was the feather of Ma'at. Ma'at represented truth, justice, balance, and harmony. Now your heart is placed on the scale. There is nowhere to hide. There are no excuses. Your past cannot be changed. Your life has become part of you. And now your heart will be weighed. The weighing of the heart. If your heart is balanced with the feather, you may continue your journey. But if your heart is heavy with wrongdoing, the result could be terrible. A frightening creature waits nearby. Her name is Ammit. She was imagined as a creature with the features of a crocodile, a lion, and a hippopotamus. She was known as the devourer of the unworthy. The ancient Egyptians believed that if the heart failed the judgment, Ammit would consume it. It is a frightening image. But there is also a powerful idea behind it. You cannot escape yourself. You may hide your actions from other people. You may pretend to be someone you are not. But your life remains your life. And according to the ancient Egyptian belief, one day the heart would reveal the truth. The god of the dead. At the center of this mysterious world stands Osiris. Osiris was one of the most important gods in ancient Egyptian religion. He was strongly connected with death, resurrection, and the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that Osiris had experienced death and renewal. Because of this, he became a symbol of life after death. The dead hope to enter the world of Osiris and continue their existence. But before reaching that peaceful existence, the soul had to pass through judgment. The journey was not simply about escaping death. It was about being worthy of a new existence. Anubis and the scale. And beside the great scale stands another famous figure, Anubis. Anubis was associated with mummification, burial, and the protection of the dead. He was often shown with the head of a jackal. In the famous judgment scene, Anubis stands beside the scale. He watches as the heart is weighed. Imagine the silence. The heart is on one side, the feather is on the other, and everything depends on the balance. This is one reason the image of the Egyptian scale has survived for thousands of years. It represents something very simple. Our actions matter. The sun and the darkness. There is another beautiful idea in ancient Egyptian belief. Every evening, the sun disappeared. Darkness came, but every morning, the sun returned. It rose again. The Egyptians saw something powerful in this daily cycle. The sun could disappear without being destroyed. It could travel through darkness and return to the light. For them, this became a symbol of renewal. Perhaps death was also a journey through darkness. Perhaps darkness was not the final destination. Perhaps light could come again. This idea is expressed in one of the most beautiful images connected with ancient Egyptian thought, light after darkness. Why were the words so important? You may wonder why the Egyptians needed so many spells and prayers. Why did they write all these words? Because they believed that knowledge could protect the dead. The traveler needed to know the names of the gates, the names of the guardians, the names of the gods, and the correct words to speak. The Book of the Dead was therefore not simply a collection of stories. It was a collection of guidance and protection. It was meant to prepare a person for the unknown, and this gives us another useful English word, prepare. To prepare means to get ready for something. The ancient Egyptians believed that you should prepare for the greatest journey of all, the journey after death. What did they fear? The Egyptians feared many things. They feared that the body might be destroyed. They feared that the soul might become lost. They feared dangerous creatures. They feared supernatural enemies, and they feared judgment. But perhaps they also feared something deeper. They feared being forgotten. They wanted their names to survive. They wanted their identity to continue. They wanted to live beyond the grave. That is why they built enormous tombs. That is why they preserved bodies. That is why they wrote names and prayers. They wanted to defeat, in some way, the final silence of death. What can we learn today? Of course, we live in a completely different world. We have modern science. We have different beliefs. And we do not have to accept ancient Egyptian ideas about the afterlife as literal truth. But we can still learn something from the questions they asked. They asked, what happens after death? What makes a person good? Do our actions matter? What happens to our identity? Can we escape the consequences of our choices? And perhaps the most powerful question of all, what would your heart reveal about your life? The feather. Think again about that ancient scale, a human heart and a feather. The feather is light, but the heart may be heavy. Heavy with anger, heavy with dishonesty, heavy with cruelty, or perhaps light with kindness, light with honesty, light with love, light with good deeds. We may not believe that a physical scale will weigh our hearts after death, but the symbol is still powerful, because every day our choices shape us. Every word we speak, every person we help, every person we hurt, every lie, every act of kindness, every decision made when nobody is watching. All of these things become part of the person we are. The real journey feather. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the Egyptian Book of the Dead is not really about death. Perhaps it is about life. The ancient Egyptians spent so much time preparing for the journey after death. But perhaps we should spend more time preparing for the journey we are making right now. Because life itself is a journey. Every day we make choices. Every day we become a little different. And slowly, our choices shape our character. So maybe the most important question is not, what will happen to me after I die? Maybe the more important question is, who am I becoming while I am alive? The final question. Thousands of years ago, the ancient Egyptians imagined a person standing before a great scale. The person's wealth could not help them. Their possessions could not help them. Their position could not help them. Only the truth of their life mattered. Today, we may not stand before an ancient Egyptian god. We may not see a magical scale. But sooner or later, every one of us has to look at our own life and ask, did I live well? Did I tell the truth? Did I treat people with kindness? Did I use my time wisely? Did I become the person I wanted to become? Because one day, our life will become a story. And perhaps the greatest thing we can leave behind is not what we owned. It is the way we made other people feel. The kindness we gave. The lives we touched. The good we did when nobody was watching. That may be the real weight of a human heart. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden inside this ancient book. The most important journey may not be the journey that begins after death. It may be the journey we are already making. Every day, with every choice, with every word, with every action. So, before your journey ends, make sure your heart is carrying something worth taking with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this fascinating journey through the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And remember, you don't have to learn English by memorizing difficult grammar rules. You can learn English by listening to interesting stories, learning new words, and enjoying the journey. If you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English through more fascinating stories and meaningful lessons, make sure to subscribe to English Learning Academy, ELA. Keep listening, keep learning, keep improving, and remember, every story can teach you something. See you in the next lesson. Thank you for watching English Learning Academy, ELA.